Hello students, I welcome you all to VVR-IAS, the most premier institution of India providing coaching for civil service examination. In today's class, I would be discussing about nationalism and patriotism. But before making a detailed discussion about it, just I want to sensitize you about nationalism and patriotism. If a question is asked to students like you, what is the difference between nationalism and patriotism? Do you know what would be your answer? Majority of the students, they would say, sir, is there really any difference between patriotism and nationalism? Because we think patriotism is same as nationalism and nationalism is same as patriotism. But I want to give you the answer. Yes, absolutely there is a difference between patriotism and nationalism. So how to know the difference between patriotism and nationalism? Just I am using a simple formula just to make you understand both the concepts, and then I will take to the point of difference between the two. First you come to nationalism. Make a derivation. National plus ism, that is nationalism. National plus ism, I am repeating, that is nationalism. And patriot plus ism, that is patriotism. So what is patriot? Who is a patriot? You see, ism means philosophy or approach. So who is a patriot? Patriot is a person who is ready to make supreme sacrifice for his or her country. So ism means philosophy or approach. Therefore, patriotism is a political philosophy which induces a feeling in the mind of a person by which he or she is ready to sacrifice. He or she is ready to make a supreme sacrifice, means sacrifice his life, sacrifice her life for the country. Then what is nationalism? Make the same derivation. National plus ism, that is nationalism. What is national? National has been derived from the root word, that is nation. What is nation? Nation is a politico-legal entity. So ism means philosophy or approach. Even nationalist is also ready to make supreme sacrifice for his nation or for her nation. Then where is lying the difference between the two? I want to tell you the fact that patriotism is a very passive approach. Just I have made a table to make the distinction between the two. You see, patriotism, patriot is the person and his philosophy is patriotism. Patriotism is basically a passive philosophy. It is very much passive by nature. On the other hand, nationalism is a very aggressive philosophy. This is the first fundamental difference between the two. Second point of difference, you see, if a patriot has a strong love or affection for his country. So a patriot loves his country, loves her country too much. And also a nationalist loves his or her country too much. But a nationalist thinks that his country is the best country on the surface of the earth. No other country can be compared and equated with his or her own country. On the other hand, a patriot thinks that his country or her country is one of the best country, but it is not the best. Are you getting the difference? A nationalist thinks that his or her country is the best, it is the perfect country, rest of the countries are inferior. On the other hand, a patriot thinks that his country is one of the best country, but other countries are also good. Are you getting my point? Then next point of difference is that a patriot wants friendly relationship with the nations, with the countries all over the world. But as a nationalist is very much aggressive by nature, and he thinks that his country is the best on the surface of the earth. That's the reason he is warmongering by nature. He thinks countries, those who are not ready to accept the superiority of his country, obviously war would be made against them. That means nationalism is leading towards waging war towards the people of other countries. Then the next point of difference is that a patriot thinks that people all over the world are equals of each other. On the other hand, a nationalist thinks that only people of his own country are equals of each other, and people of other countries are inferior to the people of his or her own country. I am citing an example just to make a difference between nationalism and patriotism in terms of citing a poem from a patriotic cum nationalist poet of India. All of you know the former Prime Minister of India, Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee. He was a nationalist poet, and at the same time he was also a patriotic poet. So I am just showing you as a patriotic poet what Atal ji has written. Atal Bihari Vajpayee has written a poem which reflects patriotism, where he writes, भारत कोई जमीन का टुकड़ा नहीं, आई एम स्पीकिंग इन हिंदी, भारत कोई जमीन का टुकड़ा नहीं, जीता जगता राष्ट्र पुरुष है, ये बंधन की धरती है, अभिनंदन की धरती है, ये तर्पण की भूमि है, ये अर्पण की भूमि है, इसका कंकर कंकर में शंकर है, इसका बिंदु बिंदु गंगा जल है, हम जिएंगे तो इसके लिए, हम मरेंगे तो इसके लिए, फिर मरने के बाद भी गंगा जल में बहती हुई हमारा अस्थियों को कोई कान लगाकर सुनेगा तो एक ही आवाज आएगी, वंदे मातरम, भारत माता की जय. Just try to understand the meaning of this poem. Here the poet Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee says that our country India is holy land for us, and it is the sacred place for us, and every drop of water of this country is equated with the water, with the river Ganga. We have to live for this country, we have to die for this country, and even after our death, I am translating actually the Hindi version into English, that even after the death, our death, while our bones should be thrown in the flow of Ganga, in the river Ganga, our bones should start also flowing along with the flow of Ganga, and different bones should be collided with each other. The moment the bones would be collided with each other, obviously a murmuring sound would be emitted out of it. That sound, if you would hear attentively, that sound of our bone would also give us a feeling that हम बट भारत माता की जय और वंदे मातरम. So you see, in this poem, no comparison with other country has been made. Even a person of India is ready to make supreme sacrifice for his country without developing any hatred towards the people of other country. This is truly a patriotic poem. Right now come to nationalist poem. Same writer, same poet, Atal Bihari Vajpayee has also written nationalist poem. How nationalist poem has been written? Take another example. I am citing another song, another poem from Atal Bihari Vajpayee. What is that? Somewhere he writes, जब पश्चिम ने बनफल खाकर छाल पहनकर लाज बचाई, जब पश्चिम ने बनफल खाकर छाल पहनकर लाज बचाई, तब भारत से साम गान का स्वर्गिक स्वर था दिया सुनाई. अज्ञानी मानव को हमने दिव्य ज्ञान का दान दिया था, अंबर के ललाट को चूमा, अतल सिंधु को छान लिया था. What Atal Bihari Vajpayee has written in Hindi. I am translating it into English just to make you understand what is the message of nationalism. Here the poet says, जब पश्चिम ने बनफल खाकर छाल पहन कर लाज बचाई, means whenever civilization was not donned in Western society. Western society means America and Europe. While civilization was not donned in the Western society, thousand and thousand years before it, Indian civilization has reached at the apex. Then अज्ञानी मानव को हमने दिव्य ज्ञान का दान दिया था, मीन्स इंडिया हैज टॉट नॉलेज टू द होल वर्ल्ड. अंबर के ललाट को चूमा, अतल सिंधु को छान लिया था, मीन्स सिविलाइजेशन हैज फ्लोरिश्ड and reached at the apex point thousand and thousand years ago in India. While Western society was living in darkness, while Western people were covering their body with the bark of the trees and plucking the fruits from the trees for satiating their hunger, thousand and thousand years before it, Indian civilization has reached at the apex. This is nationalism, because as I told you the fact that nationalism always makes a comparison between your country with other country. Nationalism promotes the idea that your country is superior than other country. What has been written in this context, that compared to Western countries, India is superior. Why? Because Indian scientists, they developed the technology of aviation. Ambar ke lalat ko chuma. It means thousand and thousand years ago, the scientists of India, they developed the technology of aviation. That's the reason Indian flights were flying in the sky and they were kissing the forehead of the heaven. That is the meaning of Ambar ke lalat ko chuma, Atal Sindhu ko chhan liya tha. Atal Sindhu ko chhan liya tha means obviously Indian scientists in past developed the technology of navigation. That means our scientists knew how to manufacture ships. So because Indian scientists manufactured ships, so our ships were sailing in the high seas, and in this way we were far developed, far advanced compared to other countries of the world. So here the message is nationalism. That's the reason I told you nationalism is a very aggressive approach. Nationalism leads to waging war towards the other country. On the other hand, patriotism is a very passive approach. Patriotism is helpful for the purpose of maintaining peaceful coexistence among the people of different countries. All these things I have mentioned in this table. You can see it. In addition to that, I want to tell you the fact that both nationalists and patriots are ready to make supreme sacrifice for their country, for their nation. But no doubt a nationalist is a patriot. But a patriot may not be a nationalist, because nationalists develop aggressive approach. Nationalist loves war. Nationalist is ready to wage war against the other country, those countries which are not ready to accept the superiority of his own country. So this is the fundamental difference between nationalism and patriotism. And in your sociology paper 2, different topics related to nationalism and patriotism is there, particular nationalism is there. For example, in paper 2 sociology, questions are asked like religious nationalism, cultural nationalism, ethnic or ethno-nationalism. These are very important questions. Time and again, UPSC has asked questions in paper 2 context from these topics. In addition to that, even in your general study paper 1, also ethnic conflict, ethno-nationalism, this type of questions have been asked. All these things would be taught to you in our classroom. So I request you to join in VVR-IAS, India's the most prominent institution imparting coaching for civil service examination. Wish you all the best. Thank you. Thank you for watching this video.